And good afternoon, everybody. It's 1 o'clock on Tuesday, March 31st. I'm John Russell, and you're stuck at home with me. And I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, nobody better to be stuck at home with than nationally touring comedian and author. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to Nathan Timmel. Good afternoon, Nathan.
Hello, Mr. Russell. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you doing?
I'm fine. I'm bored. I think anyone is. That's why you'd be tuning in, is because at this point we're nearing levels because just nothing to do. I never thought I would look forward to going to Target for 15 minutes once a week just to buy sundries, but that's my life, getting out of the house once a week.
I'll tell you what, I heard somebody went to Target on Friday night because it was the last night up here in Minnesota before the actual lockdown, and they dressed up to the nines to go to Target. So
there you go. Now, when you say actual lockdown, are you allowed out of the house for groceries, or because okay, that's what I was going to say. So you can still go to Target, but not recommended. You can't go browse. You have to walk in, get your milk, get your bread, leave.
That's get out of there. It's hard because it's groceries, pharmaceuticals, but there's a lot of other stuff that's open too. Like I saw something that said 78% of the jobs in Minnesota were deemed essential.
I don't remember what state it was, but I did read a story somewhere where they said they had to actually go around and tell certain locations, like, okay, you're a tattoo parlor, you are not essential, close. There were people applying for exemptions, and those exemptions were being shot down because they were kind of absurd.
Absolutely. So you have children at home. How are you holding up? So it's kind of you were typically sort of the house husband anyway, right?
Yes, I was around Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday sometimes, and then I'd be gone for the weekend. I'm a Michael Keaton movie. I am Mr. Mom. I'm the dishwasher guy, the laundry guy, the take care of the kids guy for most of the week. And then my wife had weekends because I would tour. Having them home right now, I hope that what comes out of this is that a lot of libertarian and conservative minds are changed, where they hate on teachers and say teachers are unnecessary. I've never been one of those people. But I have two kids, age 5 and 7, and just dealing with those two, because we're homeschooling them, for lack of a better word. We're not just, watch TV all day. We are scheduling them so that if and when school starts again, they will still be on a format of wake up, eat breakfast, do work. And just watching over the two of them is enough for me, where I always understood it. I always had in my head, okay, smaller classrooms are better, smaller sizes. Dealing with two kids, any teacher should not have more than 10. I know that's absurd. They say 30's maximum, 20's ideal. How teachers do it, I have no idea. Keeping my two young kids focused is near impossible. So I think you're going to see a lot of people saying teachers deserve raises.
I think so too, and I know there are a lot of people that are letting things fly, and I have a friend who said she got a schedule. Her school district, her teacher for her son, brought an actual schedule and said, "Here, this will help you out. Here's some activities." And I think it's my kids are all older, so I don't have to worry about that. Thank God, because I don't know what I'd do.
I wish we had gotten a schedule. They keep doing it day by day, where they say this is allowed, this is what we're allowed to do, this is what we're allowed to try. So fortunately, my wife is allowed to work from home. So her thing in the morning is to print up math problems she found online, science sheets, and there are wonderful resources out there. So she sets the schedule in the morning, and then I'm the taskmaster all day. And you're talking to me right now during quiet time. They're too old to nap, but they do get shut in their room for a little, like, okay, decompression time, where everybody just gets to go to their corners and not deal with anybody else. So
perfect. Yeah. Perfect. And who doesn't love nap time?
I would enjoy a nap, but I never get it. So, because this is the 1 hour where I get to actually try and do something.
There you go.
My day.
So let me ask you this. I've known you for just about as long as I've done comedy.
It's been quite a while.
And hello, Dusty Hookham. And hello to my dear sweet mother Mary, who's down in Des Moines. By the way, Nathan, you're not in Iowa City, but you're outside of Iowa City, correct?
Just a little bit. I say Iowa City because it's easier for people to understand, but it's like 10 minutes. It's called North Liberty. You sneeze and you're there.
Yeah, I went to the University of Iowa, so I know where North Liberty is.
Right.
I think we detasseled corn there or something one time.
Apparently, it's a rite of passage for Iowans.
I think you have to do it, otherwise there's Chuck Gollop. Hello, Chuck.
I know Chuck.
Yes, sir. Happy to have him along, too. So I've known you, as I mentioned, just about as long as I've done comedy, and you've done it much longer than that. When did you start doing comedy, Nathan?
98, 99, somewhere in there. 98, probably.
Okay. And as I recall, you met your lovely wife, who is not an original Iowan.
She is. I am not.
Oh, she is.
She is the original Iowan. I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and I was playing the comedy club that is still in Cedar Rapids, Penguins. Mm-hmm. And on that particular night, she happened to be in the audience. And back then, something called MySpace existed, and she friended me on MySpace. And because I am a bad self-promoter, you'd think as a comedian, I would just be accepting friend requests and trying to grow my base. What I would do whenever I would get a friend request is I would look at it sideways, like, who is this person? And especially online, you get a pretty girl requesting, you're like, okay, this is a fake profile. So I just sort of sent her a message like, hey, I noticed you live in Iowa. I was just there. Is that why you're friending me? And she wrote back, and we wrote back and forth. And then we went on a couple of dates. Then we dated long distance with her in Iowa, me in Los Angeles. And then I moved here. And if you were tuned in 5 minutes ago, you've heard the rest. Now we're married and 2 kids.
There you go. And you're originally from Madison, yeah?
Yes, Madison, Wisconsin.
Okay, because I for some reason I thought your wife was from Madison, but I don't remember, and I didn't read your bio.
It's not your job to keep track of who I am.
I know, but I like to. I like to. So you and I have been. I've been lucky to cross your path. You've unfortunately had to cross mine. You were one of the first guys that I did road work with, unbeknownst to you. We got scheduled to do a show in, I think it was Econom.
I've only done Oconomowoc once, so I don't think it was there. I don't know if you're hearing me. You've completely locked up at my end. I don't know what viewers are seeing, but I see John Russell just sort of pausing.
We'll come back.
You're back.
There we go.
There you are.
It's because there's so much traffic on Facebook that happens from time and time again. You and I did some Best Western somewhere outside in one of the Milwaukee suburbs, and then we did an attic in Northwood, Iowa.
Yep.
That was the first time I worked with you on the road, and then I think we've done a couple of fundraisers down at Goonies. One of which I just absolutely was not to kiss your ass or anything, but holy cow, I think it was for the Democratic Party of
I was just gonna ask, because that would be the only fundraiser I remember.
Hi, Randy.
So when you said Goonies fundraiser, I'm like, the only one that I remember that, I know I've done a handful, but that's the one that comes to mind. So I'll let you tell me what you remember, and then I can tell you what I remember.
I remember it being a very stiff crowd until you started chiding them on being dummies. And I can't remember exactly how or what it was, but it was hilarious. And you not only made a very good, thoughtful point to him, but you also made him laugh about it.
Here's what I remember. I remember generally what you just said. I don't know if I called them dummies, but I did yell at them. So as you said, it was a Democratic fundraiser, and they were a very tight crowd, very, very just sort of straight-laced, a lot of like, I don't know if I should laugh at that. And I told a couple jokes, and it had started with, was there someone before you? There were 3 of us. There was a host, a feature, and then me.
Yep.
And so it was a lot of like, and so I'm like, all right, I'm going to get up there, and if they give me this kind of crap, I'm going to go after them, because what an audience doesn't understand is when you sit back in the audience as a comedian and you're going up, it builds in you. And so by the time I was ready to go up, I was already annoyed with the audience because I saw what they were doing. It's not I walk up on stage, hey, everybody, now I'm in a bad mood. It's more, I've been watching the audience misbehave for 45 minutes. And when I get on stage, I'm sort of annoyed with them. So in my head, I said, all right, I'm going to give them a couple jokes. And I told a couple jokes and they gave me the same, I don't know. And then I just laid into them. And I remember one thing I said was, this is why Democrats lose elections. When you sit there with polls up your butt, acting judgmental and or defensive and superior, I go to conservative areas, not ultra conservative, but just sort of normal. And they're relaxed and they're just laughing and they're not worried about politically correct. And I wasn't being super politically incorrect. It's just that they were worried about what if they laughed at something someone else didn't laugh at, then that person might judge them. So it was this hypersensitive room that when I laid into them and told them this is why Democrats lose elections, because they're always worried about everyone else instead of just relaxing and having fun, then they relaxed. And afterward, everyone came up to me, shook my hand, said, thanks, Democrats really need to hear that. I'm like, they really do. But that's the way I remember it.
Yeah, and I like the way you remember it better because I don't remember the specifics, but I do know that you did so well with them that they booked it again next year. I don't know who was on it because, of course, Mark didn't have you or I on it.
Yeah, you don't want to do the same thing 2 years in a row.
Right.
Joke from last year, now I've got 5 different minutes and everything else is the same.
But yeah, they booked again the next year, and then I think they were done.
Because the person the next year didn't do as well.
They didn't. Well, no, because they let them sit there with the stick in their butt.
Right.
There's Lee Lycan. Hello, Lee. Good
Hi,
afternoon
Lee.
to you. I see Randy and Carla was there as well. Happy to see him. So one of the things, there's Jeff Johnson. Good afternoon, Jeff. Happy to see you. Yeah, they probably did. Yeah, as many times as I've tried to get. I don't know if I should say as I've tried to get Mark Clampy to. Anyway, I won't. Happy to see Jeff. So Nathan, we want to talk about your new album.
I figured out where you were going with that.
Yeah, and it went different. I don't want to get.
You didn't want to burn any bridges.
I don't want to get in trouble with anybody. But so let's talk about your new album because you have 3 out already, correct?
This is 6. I have 5
number
out
6.
already.
Oh
depending on how you count them. The first one, I would say, is almost like any comedian's first album. It's a throwaway. I recorded it before I was ready. I was all excited. Yay, I've recorded my first CD. You can't find it anywhere. It's not on Amazon. It's not in print. But I have a couple of copies that I've thrown on and gone, oh my goodness, what was I thinking? The material is questionable, but the recording quality is beyond questionable. But yeah, there are 5. This is the 6th.
All right. And what is this one called?
This one is called This Could Get Awkward. It was a combination of my wife and I coming up with it because there's a track on there that she doesn't really like. And that's the title track, This Could Get Awkward. It's about 23 minutes long on the track, just one joke. And it bobs and weaves and ebbs and flows. And by the time it's over, the audience doesn't realize they've been listening to one joke because it goes down so many tributaries and on so many tangents. And there is a moment in that where things sort of get awkward and the audience is like, should we be laughing? And then I finish it with a big pop. So the album is called This Could Be Awkward, off a moment in a joke where things get a little awkward.
Gotcha. And now you mentioned that your wife found it awkward. Your wife is really kind of a true partner with you in some of this stuff because she's helps you with a lot of the marketing ideas and graphic type things. Yes,
she does everything. She built my webpage. All I do with my webpage is go in and change like 1 or 2 things, but she built my webpage. She has an expensive Canon camera. So she took the pictures from the album cover, which were an accident, which we can talk about if you want. She designs the cover. She is very good with graphic design. She has a master's degree in marketing. So that is why she is in charge of presenting who I am.
Absolutely perfect. Now, let me ask you too. Where did you record this album?
I recorded this one at the Funny Stop in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio.
Oh, I've heard of the place. I've never been there.
It's very nice, and it was more. I had been recording for, I would say, 2 months, looking for the quote perfect show, which is the combination of audience laughter and, most important, me not stumbling over words. And that you can, when you're recording a CD, you can pause and then say the thing correctly and edit it out. But if you do that too much, it really interrupts the flow with the audience you're in front of. So you can mess up a couple times and edit it out, but you really want to get a clean take.
Absolutely.
And that was just where that finally landed.
All right. And now, is your album out now, or is it coming up, or?
I put it out last week, just dropped it for free. What happened was I got a text from one of my best friends, and the only thing the text said was, everyone I know just got fired today. He used to manage a movie theater, and the movie theater just shut down, closed its doors, and fired everybody. And I know a lot of people in the restaurant and obviously entertainment business industry, and everyone's without a job right now. And I had been sitting on this thing and sort of wondering what to do with it. And when I got that text, I said, you know what? Instead of putting this out and asking everybody to buy my album, I'm just going to drop it on SoundCloud for free and let anybody download it and listen to it that wants to. And then I made sure to put it on Amazon, and because people have subscriptions to that and Apple Music and Pandora. So you can buy it if you want. It came out last week, but you can also just stream it or download it for free.
Well, I'll tell you what, you should give me, hey, D'Angelo Funches, good afternoon to you. Give me the link when we're done for the paid ones. And if people want to try to track it down for free, they can do that. How's that sound?
Sure.
I mean, I think people should give you a little, coin or two, because you're home doing nothing too.
I had a good friend of mine, Michelle, on Facebook, message me earlier and said, I have a subscription to Amazon Prime, which means your album is free with that when I stream and listen to it. Do you receive anything for that? And I told her, yeah, I probably receive a fraction of a penny. And she felt bad. I'm like, don't feel bad, because when you buy it, then I receive an actual penny. So
absolutely,
all the money still goes to Apple and Amazon. I get a little more, but don't worry about buying it. It'd be nice, but
Well, that's one of the things that you and I kind of came together on was way back when I was doing an internet radio station, and one was comedy.
Yep.
We kind of talked about Sound Exchange and how, as an artist, Andy Fisher, hello, you can go buy it. Well, absolutely go buy it, Andy Fisher. You're a good
heart goes pitter patter. Thank you, Andy.
But finding out that first check from Amazon is not half a bad deal, is it?
Well, your memory again is correct, and I will just further it. You had told me about your internet station, and what I asked you was, hey, I just got an email from this place called Sound Exchange. It seems sort of spamish, fishy, with a PH, like, should I click this link? And you said, oh my God, yes, click that link, sign up with Sound Exchange. And I did, and they had been sitting on 10 years of royalties for me. So that first check was good. Then it was like plunging off a cliff. It went from a couple $1,000s to like, oh, well, now I can fill up my gas tank. But
$30.
I am a nobody, and the fact that I can fill up a gas tank just by sitting at home and someone out there streaming, I will take it. I am not complaining I won't use the name, but before we recorded, I told you a story off air. Where a comedian, won't say the name, and I were backstage at a comedy club, and he said, yeah, Sirius XM's good, Sound Exchange is good. I get like $2,000 a month from them. That's fine, whatever. And I'm like, that's fine? You get $24,000 a year when you are doing nothing, and that's fine? Can I trade lives with you? I would love $24,000 on top of what I do to try and make a living.
I have an album just like yours. Well, no, it's not just like yours because it's not funny. But it's on CD Baby. I'm still waiting to get my first check from them.
I think I have 4 of them on CD Baby. That's where I release through.
Yeah, CD Baby's okay. It's easy. But here's the thing. They don't tell you. They don't flag it and say, shouldn't do this. Of course, I was when I did mine. It's first of all, it's way too short.
How long?
And the actual stand up is about 28 minutes.
Okay, it's more an EP. It's kind of like Diver Down by Van Halen.
Well, what I did was I filled it in. I used my old radio bits as filler. So
I would. And you thought that they should have maybe screened that and said you don't want to do this? Is that what you say?
I thought anybody should have said you shouldn't do this.
John, can I explain something to you?
Nobody can.
They just want, it's not that they don't care. They are a service. You want to put out an album, they are there to take your credit card number. And
I understand. I understand.
They would probably, if you wanted to release a spoken word album of you reciting old Hitler speeches, they would be like, don't agree with it, but hey, your credit card cleared, so go find your market.
We'll take the dough.
Yep.
But yeah, so but I can't believe so. This is number 6 for you.
Yeah.
And so
one disavowed, but
pretty close. I don't know. So one of the things I like to ask people is, and you've been doing this for quite a long time now, on your way to becoming a headliner, and actually I'm sure you open for some bigger names now still.
Yep.
Who is the biggest name you've worked with? Who is the most, who is your favorite act to have worked with? How about that to start with?
Okay, biggest name is easy. I was an MC for Larry the Cable Guy probably back when I started, when he had just transitioned from Dan Whitney to Larry the Cable Guy and was not on the Blue Collar Comedy Tour yet. He was inching his way. He was a headliner, but he was not super famous. And then he exploded. I got to open for, or maybe feature for, I don't remember. I have pictures with him, Lewis Black, right about when he went from being Lewis Black to being Lewis Black, when he suddenly got, I think it was his first Comedy Central special. So those are two big ones. Favorite comic, that'd probably be a several-way tie. Augie Smith is one of my favorites. Doug Stanhope I hit right early on when I was learning to host, and he was very kind to me. Danny Bevins, Mike Merrifield. Again, if I start naming names, we'll just do the rest of the show with me talking about other comics, because
nice long list.
Yeah.
Nice long list. All right. So now tell me about your biggest horror story or your biggest hell gig.
Wow. All right. I got to think about this for a second. I'm going to go with Sioux Falls, South Dakota corporate gig maybe 3-4 years ago. And there are so many reasons it was a hell gig. I'll try and make it a quick story. I show up and I meet with my point of contact before the show, and we do a little rundown of what they expect of me. And they say PG-13 is fine. You know, you don't want too much swearing. It's corporate, so I don't generally swear anyway. And they say that there are going to be kids there. And I said, okay, that's odd, but sure. And they go, the kids are fine. The family knows that it's comedy and they're used to it. And I'm like, all right, well, I better pull some punches anyway. And the thing I did not like, and we sort of, probably not my place to do it, but I did it as gently as I could. They said it would go drinks, dinner, comedy, and then giveaway. And I said, generally, and this is just my opinion, what works best is do the giveaway after dinner, and then comedy comes at the end of the night, and anybody that wants to leave can leave, and anybody that wants to stick around can stick around. Because if you do comedy, then giveaway, people that want nothing to do with comedy are forced to sit through it to try and win the big screen TV, the employee giveaways, the corporate, whatever they're. And they said, oh, okay, well, we've already got the schedule. I'm like, yeah, not going to argue with you. And it's probably the only time I can think of where they said, hey, everybody, we got a comedian tonight after the dinner ended. Here he is, Nathan Timmel, drove up from Iowa. And they just sat there staring at me. And nobody applauded or smiled. And so I said, hi, and did a couple jokes, and they sat there. And I just, there was nothing you can do. You can't turn on them because they're paying your mortgage. And so I just did joke after joke after joke. And I just sort of drifted off in my head, like, all right, I'm just going to go on autopilot. I'm not going to, this is just the way the gig is. except at one point, I don't remember what joke it was, but I remember that it had been doing so well, and I let it fly, and it just sort of sat there, and I went, I'm not going to lie, that's the first time that joke has never gotten a light applause. And one guy went, good. I'm like, well, all right. And then the show finished, and I said, thank you. And I left, and I talked to my point of contact, and I said, I'm sorry to ask this, but what happened? I have never had a response like that before. And she said, well, they kind of wanted a magician this year, and we gave them a stand-up comedian. And then they started doing the drawing, and people, so it was a combination of they took an employee survey. The employees said magician. The boss said, nah, get a comedian. And then they made them sit through me to get, and everybody piped up again. Once they said, okay, we're going to start giving away vacations and televisions and Xbox or whatever it was, then they all got excited again. So they literally just resented me for being me. And that was just an hour of zero fun.
So they were protesting you without you even knowing why,
right?
And it could have been anybody.
It could have been anybody, but I had to deal with it, and it's fine. The check cleared. It is what it is.
I got to say, one thing that I know about you is you are not afraid to drive like a madman to get home to your family.
I don't know about a madman. I've never gotten a speeding ticket because I don't speed. I drive like a very conservative, I don't want a speeding ticket, I like my insurance rates where they are kind of guy.
All right. I misspoke. But you have, as long as I've known you, you've had no problem, no matter where you were, to drive up, do a show, and then drive home. The first time I thought it was amazing was when you came up and did a show for me at the Austin, Minnesota VFW Hall. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have a whole lot of money to pay you, but you were kind and came up and did it anyway. And thank God you sold more merch than I paid you that night, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. I didn't have a room for you, and you drove back home. I will forever be grateful for you doing that.
I'm grateful for the gig, always. I'm like any comic. There's a radius. Like if you had said, hey, I have this gig for you in Montana that pays what it pays, I would turn that down. But if it's within a certain radius and I can look at it and go, yeah, that's gas money, and I got the night off, let's do it. I'm here to do gigs. So
absolutely. And likewise, now I don't remember, did you drive you just drove to Madison from that casino gig we had up at north of Escanaba?
I had Milwaukee, actually. I had a Saturday night show, and I drove up to Escanaba the last time we bumped into one another.
So what would you say your range is to drive?
Anywhere and everywhere.
There you go, Jeff.
I always take the room because I will take a nap during the day, or if it's a multiple night, I just leave after the last show. But I did Atlantic City for Mr. Johnson, and as soon as the show was over, I drove back that night. So I got home the next morning.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll tell you my worst story, though. Not worst, but a couple of years ago, my wife got me, the show got sold out that I'd wanted to go to a concert. And my wife, they released like several tickets last minute, several days before. And she said, hey, do you want to go see the Foo Fighters in Madison, Wisconsin? There's one ticket on the floor. I wouldn't be going with you. Will you go see the Foo Fighters by yourself? And I said, absolutely, I will. So it was on a Tuesday night. And what I forgot was that I had a gig in Kansas on Wednesday. So I drove east 3 hours, stayed at the concert. It finished at midnight. Then I drove back west to home and slept for 3 hours. Then I got up. So I got home at 3 a.m., slept until 6 a.m., got up and drove 10 hours to Kansas and did a gig. And then that night I stayed in the hotel and got up the next morning.
My gosh. Yes. That's Foo Fighters. That's worth doing, though.
Oh, absolutely. Great.
Was that the first time you'd seen them?
First and only so far.
Gosh.
One small complaint. They had an opening act. The opening act was fine. I enjoyed them. But Foo Fighters played for 3 hours. And at some point you're thinking, as it gets close to midnight, maybe drop the opening act and just say, it's a night with the Foo Fighters. Hi, Becky. Just Foo Fighters 8 to 11, and then you're done and everyone goes home because the opening act was playing to a quarter full arena and mostly indifference. I kind of enjoyed them, but I don't even remember their name. So It would have been nice if Foo Fighters had just gone on at 8, played 3 hours, and gotten us out of there a little earlier.
Yeah, the time that I saw Foo Fighters was up in Fargo, and they had Collective Soul opening for them. Collective Soul had a couple of hits.
Yeah, I remember them. I was never a fan. I never.
Yeah, I worked at the radio station.
Don't something. Yeah.
Maybe
just turn me on. I don't remember.
Yeah, I worked at the radio station. I had no joke. I get so spoiled working at the radio station, Nathan. I mean, we would get to go to so many of these shows for free.
Yeah,
and I worked at a hard rock station, so Foo Fighters was one of them. But there's just a whole litany, and I was just so spoiled when I moved down to Rochester and worked there, and we didn't have many shows. They're like, "Yeah, well, would you like to go to this show that we got a discount on the tickets?" I'm like, "Tickets? Well, yeah. I'm not paying to see any of this."
Right.
But it was, oh my gosh, radio was the best.
You talk about great comics that I've opened for. The reason this pops to mind, I'll tell you in a second. Jimmy Pardo. Jeff Johnson, I had this story with him a little while ago. He came and visited Penguins Comedy Club, and I went to watch him and learn from him and visit him. And this was just several months ago. This was past fall. And on stage, he just mentioned in passing Kiss on the Dynasty Tour in 1979. And so probably that was as long as he mentioned it. So after the show, I cornered him and I said, "Hey, for a split second, you mentioned Kiss 1979. Did you go to the Dynasty Tour?" He goes, "Yeah, I took my mom." And I'm like, that was my first concert. I was 10 years old and my mom took me to the concert. So we had a little bonding moment over seeing Kiss on the final tour before the breakup when it was all the original members.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
And it was funny because what I just said was that my mom took me, and Jimmy and I both had sort of the same experience, if I remember correctly, which is being a child and going to a Kiss concert. I was super embarrassed up front, like, "Oh, I can't believe I'm going to see Kiss with my mom. This is so uncool." And then you get in the arena and, it's all 10-year-olds with their mom. It was just all kids in it was Kiss in 1979 was basically Taylor Swift 4 or 5 years ago, where it's just
absolutely
kids.
Oh my gosh, there's Todd Andrews. Hi, Todd. No, I don't love Collective Soul. That's wrong. I just remember that they were the opening act. That's not my fault. I have a really good memory.
Collective Soul, like people like Todd's Boston accent.
No, exactly. Gosh, this is so funny.
Take that, Todd.
We ran into Todd on a flight to Boston with my new day job, and that was kind of fun. And my new day job, which everybody's laid off from now.
Sorry to hear.
Yeah, well, it happens. But we have myself and 4 other comics that were on that trip, and it was just fun to run into Todd. He wanted to take a picture of us all, but we were all too high for him. I mean, no, we were all too scattered is what I meant. God dang it. Anyway, point being, Red Owl t-shirt. Hi, Ron Lambrick. Yes, sir. There it is. Red Owl food stores, which is another thing, Nathan. You've got some shirts and a bumper sticker and some books also. You've written a number of books and little short ebooks as well, right?
Yeah. This might be interesting. I have no idea, but I
miss you too, buddy.
Miss you, my friend. Haven't seen Todd since we bumped into each other in Madison, I believe. Todd, has it been since Madison? I can't. Anyway, I wrote my first fiction book over the course of last year.
Oh.
And this is kind of neat. My wife is discovering what it's like to be an artist and face indifference and rejection, because with the first few books I wrote were all nonfiction, and they were personal and autobiographical, and I shopped them around a little bit, and everybody said, "Nobody cares who you are." So I self-published them. And then I gave my wife this book, my fiction book, and she took me out to eat. She said, "We're going to get a babysitter. We need to talk." And I'm like, "All right, talk? Sure, that sounds ominous." And she sat me down, and she was so excited. She said, "Okay, now your other books have all been cute. They're all good, and I like them. But this book is good. This fiction, this is actually good. You need to find an agent and a publisher." And I said, "Yeah, that's you just don't find an agent or a publisher. That's not how it works." And she goes, "No, I will do it for you." And I said, all right, I'm willing to self-publish because I know how it works. And so for the past maybe 5-6 months, she has been discovering what it's like to have something you really believe in and face the utter indifference of people who are supposed to be searching for you, saying, I am in the market to find, musician, painter, comedian, artist, and you send them this query letter and you get back this like, I'm not interested. I'm not going to look at your stuff because no one else is interested in you, which means I'm not interested in you. It's like, welcome to my world.
Absolutely. Meh. There's Billy for you.
Hey, Billy, the bass player.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah. He did what I should have. I put down the bass years ago, and now I can sort of pick it up and thump a little bit. He stayed the course and can still play. He's good man.
That's awesome.
If any comics out there are interested in marketing albums, he runs super duper printing and CD and labels in Madison, Wisconsin. He'll cut you a great deal. He is a good person and is very fair when it comes to printing up posters, albums, CDs, vinyl. I mean, he's a very good person. He runs a very good company, Super Duper in Madison, Wisconsin.
Great to know.
That's Super, SOOPER, not super as in Superman. See, I don't just plug me. I plug everybody. This is the world we're in. We have to embrace others. It's
one of the reasons I love to have you on here. You know a lot of people. You love a lot of people, and that's one thing I know about you. You're a good
I
dude.
go along with my Trump supporter friends. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the things I thought was really cool about you when I first met you was that you were one of the first comedians that I got to meet personally that actually went out and entertained overseas for the troops.
Sure.
And you got a lot of great stories about that. I wonder how difficult was it for you at the time you did that because you got to find an agent to do that too, correct?
That is like anything in life. It was completely 100% accidental. I was on stage. When I got off, a comedian pulled me aside and said, hey, you think you'd be interested in performing for the troops? And I said, absolutely. And he goes, email this person, tell them I sent you. And I did, and they just booked me like that. And it turns out the comedian, the agent, was the comedian's sister. And so it was just a matter of complete accident.
Well, that's perfect. And did you go over there once or more than once?
I've been total of 9 times between Afghanistan, Korea, Japan, Iraq, Kuwait, Bahrain. I lose track. Total of 9 times.
When was the last?
As accidentally as I got into it, I'm out of it now because I have 0 connections. The people that I work for all went down different paths and or lost their contracts. The military getting military contracts is a cutthroat business, and they would get outbid, and or I don't know anybody doing it anymore. I'd love to do it again, but it's like anything; it comes and goes.
What was so you said Afghanistan? Was it when you went over there? It was pretty dangerous, yeah.
It was 2004 or 5. No, it was 2005. It was 2005. I just remembered a life event that the Pakistani earthquake. They say it was dangerous. I felt safe. I would not ever say. Yeah, it was so dangerous, man. What we were doing. I felt safe and protected by the people that were taking care of me. The people that wear the uniform for our country, those are the ones that were in danger. I would never say that what I did was dangerous.
Gotcha.
I will say this: I'm finally. I didn't talk about this. I think I wrote about it in one of my books, but I didn't. I never talked about it. And the last track on my new CD is called "Laughter is Healing," and it is a story from Afghanistan when I had the opportunity to perform for some soldiers that had just lost one of their friends to an ambush by insurgents, and it's best to listen to the track. I don't want to get into it now. It just would sort of seem self-serving and off-putting, even though this is for. That's by bringing it up, it's self-serving and off-putting. But it's one of those things where I never thought I could talk about it on stage just because it seemed inappropriate, because it's not funny. But when I became comfortable with who I am as a comedian, I realized that, hey, maybe I can drop this in there. And after making people laugh for an hour, I can end on a note that says, life can be hard, but you can get through it. So that the last track on this new album is called Laughter is Healing, and it's about performing for troops in Afghanistan.
Gotcha. And by the way, if you want to get that album, we'll have a link for you after the show in the comments here.
I'll have to find a link because, like I said, it's on everything.
It's on everything. Look it up. Nathan Timmel, for God's sakes, please. So in this time of COVID-19, there's a lot of virtual open mics, etc. I am assuming that you really don't have time to do anything like that. But have you watched any of them? Have you tried any of them? Have you?
This goes back to where you and I started talking at the top. I do not have time to do a GD thing because anybody that's just tuning in, my kids are in quiet time right now for 1 hour a day. They don't take a nap, but they just go in the room and amuse themselves. And the rest of it, I am the teacher. My wife comes up with a program, and it is, as I said earlier, so demanding to give them a problem, say, okay, work on this. And then I don't get it. Like, okay, did you read it? Yes. You didn't read it in 1 second. And so by the end of the day, when I put them to bed, I am as wiped out as they are, if not more so. So I am getting absolutely nothing done during this time. I am not writing new jokes. I am not writing new books. I'm not working on new comedy. I am just, at the end of the day, and I know this is a stereotype and this is everything on Facebook, but it's true. At the end of the day, my wife and I have put on Tiger King and just sat back and watched exotic animals and then gone to bed. And we just finished episode 7. So now we need something new to watch, but no time. I've seen the virtual online open mics, but I just walk around with my phone, and anytime you see me posting on Facebook or responding to your messages, it's basically I have finally gotten one of my children to focus on something, and then I steal away and like, oh yeah, I don't get this. All right, and then I go deal with that again.
Perfect. Staying at home and being a good dad. Well,
give our teachers raises.
There you go. Anything else you'd like to cover?
Oh, no. I mean, I'm just here to answer questions. Bye,
Thanks,
Todd.
Anybody that's watching have any questions for Nathan Timmel, we'll pop them right up here. He will answer them as best he can. I will not put up anything distasteful.
Yeah, I haven't. Once I saw I don't swear a lot, but the instant you said, hi, Mom, I'm like, well, if I ever thought for a moment I should drop an F-bomb, let's just pull that back.
Hey, it's your
I did that for you, Mrs. Russell. Is she still watching, or did she tune out like 5 minutes later?
I'm sure she's still watching. I got to tell you, after I get done doing this, and I've been lucky. I've been doing this for there's Andy Fisher. You know what? I should pay Andy Fisher to be smart. Okay,
Mrs. Russell, cover your ears. But my favorite cuss word has always been Jesus motherfucking shit fuck cunt Christ. It's just when it flows off the tongue like that, Jesus motherfucking shit fuck cunt Christ. It's this long amalgam of a lot of swear words, and I love it. I don't know why, but I love it.
It's all of them together in a condensed form.
And if I can continue down the swearing path, I really love the way the British and Australians handle the C word. It's just my favorite. Hey, he's a right good cunt. I mean, it's just, we're too uptight in America about the C word. It's just a fun word.
My youngest sister, was married to a fellow from Dublin, and they got married over in Iowa, and he had his friends come over that were part of the wedding, and they all were such. They were all a brilliant cunt.
Yeah,
you're a brilliant cunt. You're a brilliant cunt. And I just, you're right. It's like can't say that here. I mean, well, I just did, but point being. Any other questions for Nathan Timmel?
I do have a story that just popped into my head. This was not a joke. It was just an off the cuff, and I don't remember anything. I cannot tell you anything other than after the show, an elderly couple came up to me, and this is years ago. You'll get when in a second, and they said, I just want to thank you. You were so nice to listen to, and you weren't vulgar and you weren't dirty. And it was just really nice to see a good comedian like you. And I looked at them and I said, I try not to be vulgar and dirty, but at some point I did call President Bush a cunt on stage. And they said, I know, but the way you said it didn't make it seem off-putting. And I just started laughing because, again, it wasn't a joke I have where I call the president a C word, but someone said something and I called him a cunt, and they just, because I don't think it was like, he's not, it wasn't just, however I slipped it in, they said, yeah, but it was a nice way you said it. So I hadn't thought of that in years.
Oh my gosh. I love it.
Me, John.
I love it. Well, last call, anybody with a question? Otherwise, gosh, Nathan, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this with me.
Thanks for having me on here. Everyone's setting these up except for me, so it's nice to go on someone else's because that way I don't have to worry about, am I doing enough to market myself?
Yeah. Well, I know that all the folks watching enjoyed seeing you, and I will get my review from my mother. She reviews and tells me what kind of a person she thinks.
I liked him up until the end, and then I just had to turn it off. He just got too. Once that Andy fellow asked him about swear words, and he just was off and running. That I did not approve or appreciate that at all.
Well, you got to get the 5-star from Ma Russell, otherwise
I won't be back.
Otherwise, you won't be back. Nathan Timmel, gosh, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it very, very much. Have a nice, normal time with your kids.
Yeah, we're doing math next.
There you go. Well, tell them, teach them ciphering like Jethro Bodine. That was always my favorite from there. Anyway, point being, it's great to have you with us, folks.
We'll bump into you again somewhere on the road, my friend.
I'm sure we will, and I thank you so much. For those of you that are watching, I appreciate it very, very much. For those of you that happened by and saw this and stopped in, I appreciate it a lot. If you want to help creatives while they're stuck at home, everybody needs an outlet. Please, if you see an open mic, a virtual open mic, a show like this, anything, musician, stop and say, and they're like Nathan right there.
I just had a thought. I'm giving my CD. If you said if you don't buy it and you download it for free, if you have an account on Amazon or Apple, whatever, and you enjoy it, please leave a nice review. If you hate my album, then just don't tell anybody. But that's one way you can help. The royalties, if you're not buying it, just say something nice about it or share the link. That's my last plug. Thank you. Sorry.
Absolutely. All right, folks, thank you very, very much. Tomorrow we have Stephen Tovar, one of the originators of the Rochester Short Bus. He's one of the guys that started doing comedy with me, so he's semi-responsible. Nathan Timmel, thank you so much. Everybody else, we'll see you again tomorrow.
Thanks.